Hi, guys. Okay, we got a hot potato topic today. So why don't we start off the audience by telling them a little bit about who you guys are. Ian, why don't you kick us off?
So I'm Ian Ohan. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called KRUSH Brands. We recently launched our own self-aggregated platform called Locale. What's unique about us, and I think why I'm on this panel, is we do everything from our own technology. We own our own brands, and we do our own delivery. So we don't outsource our delivery. All of our drivers work directly for us.
Amazing. Yeah,
Andy Holman, until very recently, the chief executive of Ethos, a multi-brand operating group represented both in brick and mortar restaurants as well as in cloud kitchens. And yeah, happy to be part of this.
Thank you, sir, for joining us. And Hayder, tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hayder Alnashie. I'm the CEO and founder of Dash Hospitality Group. Primarily, we own our own cloud kitchens, and we have a few franchises like I Am Donner and Coffee Planet. I come from a very strong construction background, which is what got me into building cloud kitchens and our own F&B.
Amazing. So let's start with an easy one. Delivery is a centerpiece and a cornerstone of restaurants, and obviously have given birth to cloud kitchens. From a construction lens, what have you had to accommodate with this omni-channel new universe?
Yep. Okay. So with our cloud kitchen, we really wanted to be a clean, hygienic, and very easy to maintain kitchen. The problem you have with the cloud kitchens is, whereas restaurants, you know what the requirements are early in front, coffee shops, you know what the requirements are, you build accordingly. With cloud kitchens, you have to work backwards, because we don't know who the tenants is going to be. So when Ethos joined us, we really had to accommodate their requirements without disrupting the operation of everyone around you. Okay. So we've used no chemicals in our kitchen. There's no paint, there's no epoxy flooring, no disrespect to any epoxy suppliers. No grout, no ceramics. So we've used hygienic antimicrobial panels, which are a lifetime guarantee against any virus, any bacteria, AMCLAD, and they're very easy to maintain. So when there's changes that need to be done, there's no noise pollution, there's no dust pollution. You can easily remove a panel, change any electrical points or drainage that you have to do, and it stays hygienic for a long, long time, because you don't want to disrupt the operation of the other tenants who are operating around you.
Gotcha. And speaking of operations, the unsung heroes of drivers, and Ian, you've taken a different approach. Instead of using 3PLs to deliver your food, you have your own drivers on staff. There's been a lot of noise in the media, wage being an issue, their safety on the roads being another, and obviously just their general treatment in restaurants, malls, and cloud kitchens. Tell us your views on this.
Well, so for us, we think it's super important, obviously, that drivers are looked after. I think if you look at, it's a big question, but yeah. if you zoom out a little bit, the third-party delivery business has disrupted, the entire industry. But it's done so at the expense, I think, of some of the employee rights, and you see that around the world. It's done that at the expense possibly for merchants in terms of what they're being charged. So it's an industry that's trying to carve out a business model, a profitable, they're trying to be profitable. And so they're pushing on those levers, and I think one of the things that they've done is they've outsourced their delivery to third-party manpower companies here, which creates a situation where, it's sort of plausible deniability. They don't actually work for me, but they kind of work for me. And so I think it's important that third-party delivery companies ensure the onus is on them to ensure that the drivers, even though they're outsourced to outsourced manpower companies, that there are certain standards that are met because they're wearing their uniforms and they're doing their work.
Gotcha. So let's take same question, but let's spin a sustainability lens to it. Can a restaurant survive with the unit economics of today's food aggregator, increasingly expensive cost of goods, third-party last mile providers? Does it all work?
I think I'd say right now it doesn't work, and it doesn't mean that it won't work in the future. But so for us, we don't. The way we make delivery sustainable, there's a couple of things that we do, but they all revolve around because we control the entire ecosystem. So, our delivery drivers work in our, when they're not delivering, they work in our stores. They're cross-trained. Many of them move on to become managers and general managers. We can manage our inventory very well. We can manage the quality of what we do throughout the value chain. And also, it's very importantly, we can touch the customer, because that's a lot of our touch point is the driver. So we want to make sure that our job is done when the food is delivered with a smile at your door, not when it leaves our restaurant. Right. And I think the industry today is broken. And so the question becomes, what's next, right? I mean, if you think about it, third-party delivery companies don't make money. Nope. They've not been able to achieve profitability. Most restaurants are unhappy with the fees that they're paying, and then you look at the labor issues that are also ensue, and they're not happy. So this can't be the final chapter. It's satisfied. The one thing it has done is satisfied the need of consumers, which is important. But I think as an industry, we need to figure out how to make this sustainable now.
Andy, I know this topic is near and dear to your heart. You heard from Ian, you heard from Hayder. It is fundamentally broken at the unit economics level, but it has to survive because it satisfies a key consumer need. What do we do?
Look, I think there are clearly some businesses that can make good money out of the delivery model. I kind of have been navigating through this industry for quite a number of decades. We started delivery in the pizza businesses back in 1980, 81, 82. At that point, it was a relatively straightforward thing. It was an incremental revenue stream, but it was simple, right? Customers called the store. The team members who were already in the store picked up the phone, so there was no incremental cost of that. It was the food that was being made in the same location that customers might be, dining in, were then sent out, and it was, to Ian's point, it was our own drivers. So there was clearly an incremental revenue stream, and it was possible to manage the cost structure around that to make incremental profit. Mm-hmm. Fast forward 40 years, and we're in a slightly different place, right? There's still 100 between sales and profit that has to be divided up. And if you look at all the things that have been added to that ecosystem, there's a tech platform, right? So to make it more convenient for the customer to connect with the store, there's a lot of stuff that's involved in that. And ultimately, it needs to be paid for, right? There's a lot more involved in the food side of things, the production side of things. Typically, now, most items are coming to the stores possibly fully finished, and all of that has to be paid for. And then clearly, there's the logistics of it. And everybody wants to take not just the fixed percentage, but their margin on top of it.
Of course.
So I think, yes, it is. It's broken. I mean, right now, we've seen, as the aggregators have kind of built this, that there are investors hoping something will emerge from this where more money can be made. But it isn't clear what that is. And along the journey, of course, really for me, the accountability for making the customer happy has been diluted, right? So before it was simple. Customer would call to say, my pizza didn't come, I'm upset, somebody at the store resolved that. Right now, there's a whole bunch of deniability happening. Yeah. Customer doesn't really care, right? I'm upset, and now I'm just going to continue to get frustrated. So I think it is broken. It will need some kind of consolidation. How clean that's going to be, I don't know. Okay. Luckily, I've just started researching.
What I find interesting is, what does the restaurant industry, company of the future look like? Yeah. Around this, because how does this resolve itself? And what I believe, and our thesis is it's going to look more like what we're doing, in the sense that we have our own tech. We're not trying to make a profit on tech. That's how we service our customers, and that's how it always was. Historically, we're not trying to make money on delivery. That's how we service our customers well. And we want to make money on food as a company, and and I feel like the industry will start to take some of that back. And if you look at queues in North America with delivery in secondary cities, and a lot of secondary cities in North America, the good restaurants, they don't deliver. No. They've decided there's a big lineup for pickup. There's a place where you can come eat, and they don't deliver because it's a wasted, it's a false economy, because if they don't deliver, people come because they're good. Yeah. And they don't have to pay for this, to outsource their customer, and they can control the user, the experience for their customers.
Absolutely. And Hayder, you kind of interesting because you straddle both construction and you've gone into the operations now with Coffee Planet and Goy Rolls and others. What was some of your observations after having a look at your P&L and from construction into restaurants?
Yeah, you can't
Be honest
compare.
now.
You can't compare. Yeah, take me back.
Which side?
Get me back to contracting any day.
Yeah?
No, but even with the kitchen, we become more of a real estate model. It's not an operational model. So we wanted to create a state-of-the-art facility that thinks of the operator first, without disrupting their operation, making sure that they're running smoothly, no downtime, easy access for drivers to come in, air conditioned and all that stuff, safe working areas for all the employees, locker rooms and areas where they can sit down and relax and all these things that we provided. From an operational view, yeah, it is very, very challenging. And I think this is where there was a discussion earlier about food halls, and I think that will be successful because you can have an element of delivery, and some sit down is still important in this aspect. So,
understood. So I'll bring it back to Ian. Ian, you've dabbled in the virtual brands as well as the brick and mortar brands. Is there a difference in how a consumer interacts with a virtual brand that he sees digitally versus a brand that actually exists in the real world and they can interact with that?
So what I've learned and what I'll say is our experience. It's very difficult to build a brand in the dark. You know, so to build a real brand, you get asked by people, how long does it take you to, spin up a brand? It's like a decade,
Yeah,
so it's like, is my answer, which they don't like to hear, of course. But real brands take time, take effort, take, an attention to detail. And it's very hard to build a real brand in the dark. So, we believe very much in omni-channel, and I think you've made reference to that, Andy, as well, in your experience as well, is that to be a real brand, it has to be an omni-channel offering to the customer. Delivery becomes part of that experience. If you just want a menu and you just want to run it through the aggregators and make possibly nothing or very little, then you can do that, and that's what everyone is doing today. If you want real brands, then you have to build omni-channel experiences and build a real brand that has brand identity and brand equity with consumers. It's not just, if you go on the apps today, there's 2,000, 3,000 restaurants. I don't recognize, 1,995 of them.
Agreed. Agreed. And yeah, Andy, you've got strong views on that too, about you've straddled both virtual brands and you've got very successful brick and mortar. Yeah. What are the common areas and what are the clear distinctions?
I think, it's all about what's the end goal, right? I mean, you can operate virtual brands relatively easily. That was the big hook to begin with, right? It's easy to set up, there's no investment, but there's no returns either. I mean, essentially what you're trying to do is convince people to become loyal and to become committed to reordering, in the case of the food, certainly, for something which is, it's pictures on a menu screen. There's no equity within that other than basically the food. And the truth is that there's no economic model where the virtual brand, after you've taken all the aggregator costs out, et cetera, how do you then sort of build it on a sustainable basis at more than maybe 1 or 2 or 3 locations? You can't. You either have to sell your soul into the Kitopis of this world or a Reef where they've got huge real estate potential, but you're still essentially not in control of it. Right. You've got a brand, you've got some graphics, you've got a menu card, but you haven't got anything, essentially.
So we actually, I'll disagree with you slightly because we do a slightly different model.
Disagree, please.
So at Locale, we partner with brands. So we take an equity stake in the brand. We become their true business partner, and basically we treat them as our own. We become, we own anywhere from 30 to 100% of our brands, the stakes in our brands. And what that allows us to do is treat them as our own. We're not trying to, on Locale, we're not trying to make money on our technology. We're trying to reduce the cost to everybody who's part of Locale, including customers. And we're not trying to make money on delivery. So we charge 5 dirhams, for example, a delivery charge to our customers, and we charge 10 dirhams to each of the brands, all of them. Because that allows us to, and again, that'll cover our costs at best, for delivery. But it allows us to actually support local foodpreneurs and the smaller, probably the most innovative companies, because and the reason they're coming to us is because they don't have a choice. They get plugged into this ecosystem where it's kind of like the Matrix, where there's like a human being and there's stuff plugged into them, and they're just working and making zero or marginal amounts of return on that.
I guess the challenge is, I mean, if you were to move some of what you've got in terms of virtual brands, would they scale and would they immediately go into Kuwait or here or somewhere in Europe? Or are you going to have a much more difficult journey to re-establish a virtual brand somewhere else? It makes sense to some degree, I think, where you've got a local presence. From an investment standpoint, will people feel confident putting long-term money behind these virtual brands? That, to me, is where the answer is no. Whilst there are a couple of caveats. Whilst, one, the cost structures are ambiguous as they currently are, and two, while customers aren't paying for it. Yeah. Because fundamentally, food delivery is too cheap. Yep. I mean, whatever way you cut it, there should be about a $7 to $9, maybe $10 charge minimum for getting anything from point A to point B. Sure. If the people involved with it need to be, properly taken care of, not just the drivers, but the investors as well. And that's really where, at the moment, nobody's got.
And the interesting thing is, that's here, that cost isn't being passed on to the consumer because there's so much competition in the delivery space right now that they're scared to do that. And if you look at what's happening in North America, the average cost of a delivery is $7 to $9, so that's a lot of money for a delivery. And so what's happening is all of them, I think in aggregate the industry is still growing, but all of them, all of the competitors there, their overall volumes are dropping. Okay. Because, if you're going to subsidize my delivery and it costs $3 all day long, right? I wouldn't even think about it. Yeah. If it's $7, $8, $9, I might stop ordering, but I might order less, right? Or unless my company's paying for it, right? And so the overall, the volumes are dropping because that's the real cost of delivery.
Well, I think what's really interesting from a historical perspective, when you first saw delivery being introduced all those years ago, decades ago, the mindset was, I should pay less. If I come to your restaurant, the customer is like, I get it. You've got a beautiful place. You've got people looking after me. I've got knives and forks and all this extra stuff. I should therefore pay more for that. Takeaway, I do most of the work, so that clearly should be slightly cheaper. But delivery, no, I'm not coming to your restaurant. I'm sitting over here. And that was the third. It should be cheaper as well. Well, it isn't.
Delivery is an expensive proposition, and people talk about all this technology that's going to make it cheaper. Short of my only hope for cheaper delivery is when Elon Musk, puts boring tunnels underneath cities that allow us to transport
drone delivery,
underground delivery. No, drone is insane. Can you imagine everybody delivering by drone? If you're delivering a new heart for my operation, I'm all in on a drone delivery. Absolutely. If you're delivering, Friday night when there's 50,000 orders going out, they'll block out the sun, right? So that's true. But it's an infrastructure problem. Delivery is fundamentally an infrastructure problem because our cities anywhere in the world weren't designed for it.
Yeah, I hear you. Look, we got a few more minutes, and I'm very conscious of the fact that a lot of the audience members are hotel operators. And Andy, I know specifically you've dabbled into that world where you've taken cloud or the commercial kitchens of a hotel, brought in your brand portfolio, and served the in-room dining and the 15-kilometer radius of that hotel. What was your experience like?
I think, again, it was as needs must. So COVID came, it created a variety of sort of opportunities as well as requirements. In some circumstances with the hotels that we've been working with, the bits that we do see work are obviously the base. We're using a hotel's already paid for infrastructure. The kitchen's already fitted out, so it's been very capex efficient for us, and we've been able to use that sort of trade zone to great effect. In-room dining has been somewhat effective. I mean, most old hotel guys know in-room dining is a small percentage of their business anyway. We've struggled, and I think it's a case of you do what you're good at, not what you think you might be able to get good at, which is fully operating the restaurant on behalf of the hotel. That's not an area that we would continue to do. But it's very situational. It's very, very sort of specific. It's become a complicated thing to navigate because you've got owners who are happy to get into that at the start, but now they see recovery, and ultimately I think that we'll see less of it. Two, really, as Hayder's demonstrated, they're compromised kitchens. You go in, you kind of fit things around, you operate around, but that's not how to actually build a kitchen to be able to operate properly. Right. Cloud kitchens are all about having, one, content, which is the brands that people want, and two, an extremely well thought through layout.
Yeah.
And most hotel kitchens that we've gone into
not like that.
have been a case of convenience, not consideration.
Amazing. Well, we've got about 5 minutes left, and I know it's incredibly hard to get the three of you on stage, and I'd love to open it up for a question or two from the audience, if that's okay with you guys.
Sure.
Yeah? James, are you somewhere around here?
I am.
Yeah. All right. So, folks, you've got three captains of industry from a construction and operator lens, from a virtual brand and operator lens, and obviously another virtual brand and operator lens. What are some of the questions that we can answer for you today? Anybody? Do we have a hand up? I can't see. Yeah. We've got a couple over there.
Thanks. Hi. So I've seen some franchise models proposed on dark kitchens and delivery. Obviously, there's someone else then wanting another percentage of the top line, but maybe franchising could provide efficiencies and could enable you to use something like the Domino's pizza model, where you have your own drivers to basically get back that margin that currently goes to Uber Eats and so on. I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. Andy, we actually just had that conversation a few minutes ago.
Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't quite catch the kitchen. Is your question as a franchising level, is there margin?
Franchising to a cloud kitchen. So think the Katopi model.
Yes, I think there can be. Obviously, the franchisor who is really unconcerned to some degree where the product is being made, so long as the quality and standards are being maintained, then clearly for them it should be an option. We've been very graciously looked after by some of our franchisors at Ethos who allowed us to put virtual brands within the brand's facility, for which we would obviously contribute a full margin. So that was very much a synergy, win-win for us and for them. But yes, I think some brands would look to cloud kitchens for a period to help sort of give them some incremental points of distribution, typically to test market if there's a good trade zone and it's working well, and then they'll probably go off and build something physical.
Problems with delivery is the payments to the aggregators, right, which make a big hole in the margin. So could a franchise model maybe give the industry its own delivery option, or at least a better price? If we hear about hotels, then it's rumored that people like Marriott and Hilton pay significantly less commission to Booking.com than a single hotel would pay. So maybe there's some scope for that.
So I think the comment really would be, is there economies of scale in combining a lot of brands under a cloud kitchen operator?
So delivery, the economics of delivery are pretty straightforward, and I think everyone seems to miss the main points of it. If you're delivering from this location and you've got a lot of content, so you've got 10, 15 brands here, possibly, and the drivers are going there and coming back. So first of all, if you have enough content here, you'll have enough volume of orders, which means you can keep those drivers busy, without having to go to other locations. Now they can, but that's where you get an efficiency. So if you're delivering to and from the same place, rather than going from here and then going there and going there, this is efficient. If you, but in terms of the cost of a delivery, it's pretty much the same whether you're doing one delivery or doing 5,000 deliveries. You need a person, you need a vehicle, you need, if you're going to do it properly, you need medical insurance, workman's compensation, proper uniforms. So if you do it properly, those costs are the same whether you have one person or 2,000 people, marginally. Okay. And so the simple reality is, and this is something that I think people try and do this hocus pocus. Well, we can, we've got algorithms, and the cost of one delivery is the way you can reduce the cost of delivery is by increasing your basket size. Yeah. So if you have, if let's say a delivery costs 15 dirhams for the sake of argument, if you're doing a 28 dirham delivery, which is one of the aggregators' average check, that's a big problem.
Yeah.
If you're doing a 150 dirham delivery, that's a 10% cost, which is quite manageable.
Yeah.
And so the ability to increase your basket size is critical, but the driver, the cost of the driver, the vehicle, everything like that is pretty much the same.
Got it. I think we got time for one more question. There was a hand up somewhere there. Yep.
Hello, Josh Corder from Cater Middle East. Do you think the Taliban strike fell on deaf ears, and do you think it could happen again?
Taliban strike.
Well, you're looking at me because I'm...
I don't know why I'm looking at you. Andy, Taliban strike.
I do think it fell on deaf ears.
I don't think it was called a strike. I think it was...
an action?
An action, yeah.
A special operation.
Do you think its intended purpose was achieved? And
no. I don't think so.
Do you
I mean, look, I can't comment on all of the details because I'm not party to what and how the deals were. But I think fundamentally there is clearly an opportunity to improve all of the elements that delivery drivers have to make, that job a properly compensated, safe, everything that Ian said. There is a need to do that in a structured way such that everybody involved can figure out what the costs are. Right now, the truth is the drivers are supplementing, if you like, or absorbing a large amount of this economic model. They're working for cheap in very uncomfortable conditions.
Without medical coverage.
And it should be, and it will be, I'm sure. We've all been around the region long enough to know that the powers that be are very sensitive to that, and at some point,
this will be addressed.
Governance will emerge. Yeah. But it's not good enough at the moment.
Okay. Sir? James, do we have time for one more?
I think we're going to have to wrap up.
Wrap up? All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the panel today. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for making the time. I appreciate it.